Welcome to Nox Spellenzolder, and this time I want to take a look at Free Market published by Unique Board Games. It's a game for 2 to 5 players and it takes about 90 to 180 minutes depending on which variety you're going to play and the amount of players. This game is set in the USA just after the Great Depression, and you're trying to revive the economy by investing in certain shops and factories, buying goods and selling them at the right moment, attracting workers, sending them out to do certain jobs, buying trucks and investing a bit in politics and awards. The game I'm going to show you is a prototype, so the rules and the art may vary from the final product. So let's have a look what's inside the box. Inside the box we find the rules. For now they're only in English, but there will be several languages available. The rules themselves, they're easy to go through, but they're a bit small and a bit too packed together. It's not very easy to read through, but again, this is a prototype that may vary at the end. But the rules themselves, they have headers which make it easy to find certain instructions, and there's some examples in there and a couple of varieties. The game board, which is double-sided, a 4 and 5 player side and a 2 player side, and on this game board we see several things: the different clocks which depict the values of the goods, the area where we have the factories and the shops, politics, awards, and this track here is the action track. It depicts all the various actions you can choose and the order in which they will be dealt with. And around the board there's a victory point track. A player screen for every player, and inside that player screen you can insert one of these characters, and when you do so you'll see that they show two terms, two billboards, and they're for the advanced game, but it's a fun mechanic. And on the inside we have all the various steps and some explanations of them. We get several chips, we get the supply contracts, we get the strikes, we get the stocks, money, this is the action marker. We get a Empire State Building box which we will fill with coins and goodies. This is the first player marker, very nice. This is an additional game mechanic you can add to have some variety. And we have a bag with the various goods we're going to be trading, and some dice which can be used to track the current value of the different goods, and one to influence their value. So that's what's inside the box. Let's set up a game. And this is how the game looks when set up for 2 players. Each player chooses a color, they get all the pieces in their own color, and each player starts with 1 truck in their color, 3 managers, $12 and 2 random goods. You'll draw the goods from this goods bag. You don't know which goods you get, and you're certainly not going to show it to your opponents. We'll place 2 goods in every container here on the bottom of the board. You'll notice again that the board is double-sided. You have a 2 and 3 player side, and the other side is for 4 and 5 players, and certain spaces will not be available in a 2-player game because there's a meeple depicted on it with a 3. Additionally, each player gets their own player screen in the color they chose, and you choose one of the characters. If you only play the base game, these billboards don't do anything, but in the advanced game they will help you. On the main board we place these indicators on the 7 goods clocks on 0, and we place one on the round clock, and you choose to play a certain number of rounds, 4 or 5, maybe even 6. If you play it the first time, the game advises to start with a 4-round play. The more rounds you play, the bigger your engine is going to be and the more money you're going to make, so that's the main difference. It becomes a bit more tactical and it gives you a bit more options if you play a longer game. But for the first time, just start with a 4-round game. We put the money, the supply contracts and the strike chips within range, and we give one of the players the starting player marker. And we're good to go. The object of the game again is to get the most money at the end of the game. You do that by buying and selling goods at various prices, and at the end of the game you get extra money for the shops and factories you have, any goods you didn't manage to sell, any supply contracts you still have, the trucks you bought, roadblocks you've bought, and some larger amounts of points can be earned by having markers in these awards and actually winning them. So that's how we set up the game. Let's start playing. The game, as I said before, is played over a duration of a couple of rounds. 4 if you play it for the first time, or 5 or 6 if you want to get more out of it. And every round consists of 17 actions, 17 phases. In the first round you skip phase 1 and 2, but just for this example I'm going to go through them with you. You use this action marker, this phase marker, to depict where we are. The first phase, you move the round marker 1 forward. You roll this die for every goods clock to influence them. If you roll a plus, it goes 1 clockwise. If you roll a minus, it goes 1 counterclockwise, and that will affect the price of the various goods we have in the game. And finally you will fill up every container with 2 goods. If a container is empty, you'll draw 2 goods from the bag, and if there's only 1 left, you'll add another one at random from the bag. So that's what we do in the first phase. The second phase, we get income from the factories. If you have a partnership with a factory, it will provide you with a bonus. This one gives you a supply contract, a random good, and coins. We get the politicians. If you have a marker with one of the politicians or several of them, if it's at the -1 position, you can pay 1 coin, put it in the tower, and it goes up to the +1. If it's at +1, you get 1 coin from the supply. If it's at +1, you get to use the special abilities of the politicians. Then we clean up all the strikes that might have been placed here on these action squares. They're going to be removed and put back into the supply. And you have to pay taxes depending on the amount of managers you have. You start a game with 3 managers, no taxes. But if you go beyond 3, every extra manager will cost you money, $2 per manager beyond the first 3. So that's the tax you have to pay here at the second phase. In the third phase we have the auction. In this auction we're going to place bids on the various goods here in the containers. Starting with the starting player, everyone is going to bid on these goods. If you're bidding, the minimum bid is decided by the base cost of the goods, and those are depicted here next to the clocks. So for instance, if I want to place a bid on this yellow and this orange cube, the base price of these cubes is 5 and 4, so the base bid, my lowest bid, must be 9. I can also of course bid higher. It doesn't matter on which position the clocks actually are. They do not affect your base price, they only affect the sales prices, which are more important when we're going to deliver the goods, sell them on. But for the bidding process we only look at the base cost of the products. So for instance, I'd like to have these 2 cubes. The base price is 3 for blue and 3 for purple, so I'll make an offer of 6. Then all the other players in clockwise order can up the ante or pass, and the one who has the highest bid will pay that amount to the bank, get both cubes, and if you win a bid you may pay an additional 2 coins, and for that you can draw a random extra good from the bag. You don't have to show that to the other players, and you get some extra goods. And then the next player can start by bidding on a combination of goods, etc, etc. And you can buy several sets of goods during this auction phase. But you do have to make that minimum bid, and you do have to have the actual amount of money you're bidding. You can't bid if you can't pay for it. After all the goods have been sold or everybody passed because there's not enough money for them, we're going to go to the fourth phase, and this phase is the action phase. In this phase, everybody, starting with the starting player and going clockwise, is going to place their managers one by one on these fields which depict the various actions. And I'm going to just explain these actions rather quickly. I'm not going to go into too much detail, that'll make the video too long. But starting with the starting player, he's going to place his manager somewhere, next player is going to place a manager, etc, etc. And you can only place them on empty squares depending on the number of players, except for this one where there's a rainbow of meeples and everybody can place one of them over there. What are the different actions? Here you can become the starting player, you get some extra stuff. This is the air freight, you get 1 coin, 1 supply contract and 1 strike contract, and you have 3 options of which you can choose 2, and they're mostly trading goods which are still here in the harbor. Here you get your road block, which will give you extra money depending on where you place it. Here you get extra workers, which you can immediately place on the action squares, or you can just keep a couple of them behind your screen, use them for later turns. Here you can pay to change the value of 3 goods, and you can change the clocks 1 or 2 positions, either left or right, making goods worth more money or less if you're trying to annoy your opponents. This is the express delivery, which will give you an additional delivery. I'll come to the delivery in a sec, because that's one of the most important actions during the game, which will make you the most money. Or if you don't want the express delivery action, you can choose to grab 4 goods from the bag and keep 3 of them. Here you can buy a truck for 6 gold. And you get an additional 2 workers, or you can sell one of your trucks and you get 11 gold and 1 strike. And there's even an option to not sell or buy a truck, but get a combination of money, workers and a strike. Here we go to the purchase orders. You can buy 3 purchase orders which allow you to deliver more goods. Every truck has a capacity of 2, so you can only use 1 truck to deliver 2 goods. And using supply contracts, you can add goods to the delivery you're making. 1 supply code allows you to deliver an extra good. Still, the goods you're going to supply, you have to have them behind your screen. This action allows you to buy partnerships, either 1 partnership with a factory and 1 with a shop, or 2 shops. Here we have the gala honoring. This allows you to place your influence markers. You can either place them on politicians or at the awards, which are depicted here on the bottom. The politicians, they give certain bonuses. You have to meet their criteria in order to place their marker there. You get 2 of those markers. You don't need to place both of them. You can place either 1 or both. Do keep in mind, when you place them at a politician, they give you certain bonuses and actions you can use. If you place them on awards, they're stuck. If they're on a politician, you can always move them down to the awards, but they can never go from awards back up to the politicians. And you only have 4 of these discs, so use them wisely. And you can't be at the same awards twice. This is the standard delivery. Again, I'm going to explain that in a sec. Here we have the senior managers. You can buy extra managers, which means you have more meeples to perform more actions. Depending on the round, they're more expensive. And the final is the fundraiser. You can either empty the entire tower with all the money and goods in it behind your screen and you get all of them, or you can reuse one of the actions which has been performed already this turn. So those are the actions we can choose from. Starting with the starting player, he's gonna like, well, I'm gonna influence the market, and purple is gonna go for additional workers and so forth and so forth. I'm just gonna put some of these meeples down here. But you always want to place one meeple at the delivery, because that's what's gonna make you the most money. Then, using this marker again, you skip over every action which is empty and then perform the actions in accordance to the placements of the managers and going from left to right. And finally you'll end up at the delivery. I'm just gonna skip all this and put it away. And the delivery action is one of the most important actions in the game, because it allows you to deliver your goods and get some money while you do that. How does the delivery action work? 4 steps. First, you're going to load your truck, and if you're loading a truck, whether it's behind your screen or it's here, you just grab it, take it back. You can load it with either 2 goods, 1 or 2 goods, or meeples, 1 or 2 meeples, or a combination. So, for instance, 1 meeple, 1 good, whatever. I'm going to start with the basic goods and come to the meeples later. Then I'm going to move my truck to any location I want where there is not yet a truck parked. If you want a truck to move, for instance, the purple player already has a truck here and I want to deliver my purple goods, I need to get rid of him. I can either use the ability of a politician to move a truck, or I can do a takeover, and I'm going to explain the takeover in a sec. But for now it's empty and I'm just going to go over here. When I'm selling goods, let's say I manipulated the clock a bit, there we go, I'm going to have to calculate the current price, which is the base price, 3 for purple cubes. I add or subtract the value depicted by the clock, which is +2 at the moment, so it's 5, and depending on where the shop is located, I'm going to get a +1 or a +2 bonus. For in my example, it's going to be a +1. So the value of my goods is 3 + 2 + 1 is 6 for every good, and I can use the purple die to help me remember that. So selling both of them will earn me 12 coins. Goods you sell go back into the cloth bag. If you have supply contracts, you could add goods. For every supply contract you could add a good. Again, they must be purple or they can be gold. Every shop accepts gold goods. And to calculate its worth, again, you're going to look at the base price, which is 5. You're going to add or subtract the value on the clock, which is 0 at the moment, and add the row number. So I'm going to sell these for 6 each. So supply contract goes back to the supply, cube goes back into the bag, and I get an additional 6 coins. If you sell at your own shop, you get extra money. If you sell at someone else's shop, you'll have to pay them to sell there, but that's basically how you sell your goods. Every truck can be used to sell goods, or you can use the truck to take over. The workers, they are used to muscle things around. Basically, if you get workers, you can place them on any action field you like or near a roadblock, or you can keep them behind your screen to use them at a later stage. These workers, if there's 2 of them close to an object, whether it's a partnership or a roadblock, they will protect it. These 2 make this partnership immune. It cannot be overtaken. But let's say, for the example, I didn't do that, and purple is in an aggressive mood. If he comes in with, let's say I have only one of these guys over here, he comes in with the truck filled, in this case, with 2 workers, he can start taking over. First of all, he needs to remove his meeple to get my meeple out of the way. And then he can remove another meeple to change the partnership into his own color. If I were there with a truck, my truck is now going to be sent away by purple, either left, right, or up or down 1 space. So that's a way of getting rid of other players' trucks. If purple were to do the same thing, but he's going to do it like here, he could use one meeple to remove my partnership and replace it with his own, and he can remove another worker to remove my roadblock and replace it by with his own. Roadblocks, they give you bonuses. A roadblock on the train side, when placed, will give you 2 coins for every partnership in the row, and if you place one on top for the column, you get 1 coin for every partnership, and if the partnership is another player, they will also have to pay you 1 coin. If it's your own, you'll just get 1 extra coin from the supply. But those are the takeovers, and so defending them with a couple of workers, if you really want to keep them, is important. But basically, if you're going to do a delivery, you're going to fill up a truck, send it out there, and try to either deliver goods or muscle your way in with some of these workers and take over roadblocks and partnerships. And after all the actions have been done, we start the next round. We start at phase 1 again, round marker moves. We're gonna roll this die for every good, minus, so it goes left, etc, etc. And we're gonna refill the containers. And we start the next round. And so we are gonna play 4 rounds, gaining us more and more money, workers, awards, influence with politicians, and goods. And at the end of the final round, we're going to tally up the score. You're going to look at the base amount of money you've already earned, and you're going to add 3 coins for each partnership, 3 coins for every truck you have, 2 coins for every good you didn't manage to sell, 2 money for every supply contract you still have, and 3 for every road work. And we're going to look at the awards. If you manage to get yourself awarded, let's say I'm going to award myself here. This one is for the most shops and or factory partnerships. If you really have the most, you get 12 coins. If there's a second place, that player gets half that. But those can also yield you a certain amount of profit. That gives you a ton of money, and the person with the most is the winner of free market. And that's how the game is played. Free market is a great game to play, and mainly because there are so many ways of playing it, so many roads that lead to a victory. All of them are centered around the very important delivery action, because the delivery actions are the actions which will make you the most money and give you the options to do other things. And apart from the awards, those will grant you the bulk of money you need to continue playing this game. So everybody's going to deliver, but the way you build up your empire, by either getting partnerships, more trucks, more workers, roadblocks, manipulating the prices on the markets, getting freights from the air freights from the airships, or even getting everything inside this tower. All those various things help you in getting a delivery as worthwhile as possible. But on the other hand, you are limited in the amount of actions you can perform, because you only have 3 managers, of which one is most definitely going to be delivering goods. So you'll have to make choices, and you'll have to find out which strategy is going to work for you this round. And that brings a lot of interaction in the game, because other people are going to block your actions. You're going to use these strikes to block entire squares, which means certain goods can't be delivered, and you are aware of what the other players are buying, so you can effectively use these strike markers to cut away some of their profit. And again, you're going to manipulate these clocks, and you can perform other actions or build partnerships, which makes certain actions for other players less profitable. So that's a good thing, that interaction I like a lot. The theme itself, it's fun. I mean, you really feel like you're building up an empire, you're trying to get the goods at the best price, selling them at the right moment, at the right position, overtaking partnerships, creating new partnerships, making roadblocks, getting more workers, more trucks, manipulating the market. There are so many things you can do to improve your wealth. and so many ways to do them, which make this game really interesting and gives a great replay value. Things I didn't particularly like, they tried to make this language independent, so it's all symbols over here and every action is displayed on the top and bottom, so that on either side of the board you can still read it, but it's too much. It's just, it makes a mess out of everything. I think it's wiser to remove these icons here and just give everybody a cheat sheet, and they're not complete. And if it's the first time playing, again, the rules they have very small font. The letters are very small and everything is crammed together. I hope they're gonna stretch it a bit, make it more easy to read, more pleasurable to read through, and the rules themselves, they're fine, but it's not very enjoyable to read through. It could be a bit more streamlined. The balance in the game, for what I've noticed, is okay. You do need to keep in mind that if players are from various levels of experience with the games, an experienced player will be able to exploit more of the possibilities this game presents, because, well, there's just so much to keep in mind. A new player might be overwhelmed by that, so that's something to keep at the back of your head. So all that makes Free Market a great game. I like the feel it gives. I like building up my empire, getting my trucks, my partnerships, my workers, my managers and my roadblocks into the game, having them physically. I like the fact that I can actually put my goods in a truck, move it somewhere, take them out and sell them. I like manipulating the market. I like the interaction with the other players. I like the various routes you can choose in order to get more wealth, more profit, and the difficulty of all the choices you have to make, because you are always limited by the amount of managers you have, and the other players are going to block certain actions. So that's something that makes this game challenging, and I like that a lot. What I hope they're going to change is the way the rules are written. I hope they're going to make it a bit more easy and pleasurable to read through, and I hope they're going to remove these icons, because it's just too much on this board. It's gonna, well, especially for new and less experienced players, it's gonna scare them. It's just so much information which you shouldn't have on the main board. It should be more easy going. But apart from that, this is an excellent game, and I'm really looking forward to the final product. But what I've seen here and what I've played, it's a great economical builder which gives you a load of options, has some nice looks and a great feel to it. And it's because of these reasons that I'm awarding this an 8.
Nox Spellenzolder.